Okay, let's get started. Thank you everyone for joining us today. My name is Miranda Heilman and I'm an Extension Associate at the University of Kentucky. I'd like to welcome all of you to our webinar today on best practices for sampling at Kentucky Farmers Markets. Today we'll hear from Dr. Tim Woods, an Extension Professor at the University of Kentucky, Sharon Spencer, the Farmers Market Marketing Specialist with the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, and Linda McMain, a producer at McMain's River Haven Farm that samples her farm products at several farmers markets in Kentucky. We hope you enjoy the presentation and take away some good information. If you have questions, please type them in the Q&A box and we will address them at the end of the presentation or we'll follow up after the webinar. We are recording the session and it will be available at the Center for Crop Diversification's website in about a week. Please check back for it. Without any further ado, I will hand the presentation over to Dr. Tim Woods. Welcome, Tim.
All right, thanks, Miranda. Good to have this opportunity. Appreciate everybody checking in with us here today as we're looking at these opportunities for sampling and how you can use sampling at your farmers markets to really help improve your sales. We have a really neat program and some hopefully good tips and ideas and illustrations for you as you're thinking about implementing sampling at your own farmers market as a vendor. We want to certainly encourage you to take advantage of the question and answer boxes as we're going through this, as Miranda has suggested. And I know a lot of folks are going to have some pretty practical questions that other people are going to want to also have some answers to. So let me start out. My charge here is just for a few minutes to as we're getting going here, to tell a little bit about the benefits of sampling and some of the things that we've found as we've interacted with vendors across the state and across the region to help us to understand the importance of sampling at the market. And certainly sampling does give you an opportunity to showcase your product, to give people that have questions about product to be able to try that product and to discover for themselves before they actually make a purchase the value and qualities that they're going to discover about that product that they wouldn't be able to find otherwise. And we've really undertaken quite an ambitious effort to try to understand and confirm and validate the impacts that sampling has at farmers markets. And I want to highlight a few of those things here this afternoon. But keep in mind, at the farmers market, it's a highly experiential marketing venue anyway. And so a lot of the customers that are there, part of being involved in a market and interacting with you as a vendor, having that opportunity to actually sample your product can open up a lot of opportunities for conversation and for sales, in addition to just helping folks understand and recognize the value of these products that they're sampling. A few years ago, we started out this effort that sort of launched us into the springboard to study sampling more carefully. We did this survey at farmers markets across Kentucky, 11 different farm markets. And one of the things that we identified out of that survey, it kind of surprised me a little bit, was how many patrons that were coming to visit the farm market were really interested in sampling. You can see from this graphic here, sampling was at the top of the list of a number of different potential services that we were looking at there. And that fact by itself underlined for us the need to go back and try to understand if vendors are questioning about should sampling be something that's important, at the very least to see that patrons that are coming to the market are saying this is the most important thing that we're looking for amongst these services. We really want to try to find a way to make sampling more readily available at our markets. So we launched into a much more ambitious study looking at over 3,400 visitors that were coming to farm markets across 8 states and found lots and lots of great information about sampling. They're surprising to see maybe a little bit that some of the things that folks really like to sample the most were really their favorite fresh fruits, favorite fresh vegetables, things that are pretty common at the farmer's market in the first place, People are really looking to sample those products if they can find them available as a sample. Uh, Obviously, trying to sample products to see if they actually like the product, they like the taste, and to determine if they're actually going to purchase that product or not. As people are thinking about should I try a sample or not, uh, the friendliness of the vendor is a big part of the decision that is going to go through a person's mind and whether or not they decide to actually come and try that sample in the first place. So you can have a really interesting product, a really fun, flavorful product that could actually capture a lot of people's interest. But if you don't have a friendly vendor on the other side there, engaging customers and being just a cheery, smiling face on the other side of that, the vendor is a really important part of the sales process, to say the least. So engaging people in a friendly way, making the samples easy to access, and of course, putting them out in a presentation that makes it clear what's being offered as a sample is another really important thing to consider here. Sampling has a huge impact on the consumer behavior. And one of the things that we picked up many things that we are able to point to here, but over half the people that sampled product actually wound up purchasing that product when they had not planned to in the first place. We could probably just stop the webinar right there, underline that product, and everybody should charge out and start sampling because this is such a huge result here in terms of the change in behavior that takes place there. We had another 17% they indicated they might not actually buy that product that day, but after sampling, they plan to in the future when they had not planned to in the first place. So sampling has a great impact in terms of the changing the consumer's interest and willingness to purchase that product. We asked people specifically in terms of their purchasing of products or different kinds of behaviors in general following their sampling activity. 45% of them purchased product from the vendor there directly. Another 38% are recommending that product to a friend. About another third recommending the vendor to a friend. Even the opportunity to spill over and purchase other products. Another 1 in 5 consumers that had sampled purchased other products from that vendor connected back to that sampling event. So sampling can really open the door for a lot of marketing and sales opportunities there for the vendor. Of course, if you don't have samples available, nobody's going to sample that product. And if the sampling area is crowded, if there are uncertain tastes or uncertain ingredients that might be associated with it, if it doesn't look like it's a sanitary area, those can be important barriers that are noted there as well. Folks that have been out to the farmers market have had just excellent experiences. So the folks that are in the farmers markets that are offering samples generally are doing a really good job. And so folks have responded very positively to that. And as we look across our food market in the different retail settings, you can see here, folks are used to sampling food products in lots and lots of different venues. So why not have our sampling opportunities out there at the community farm market or on-farm retail market because they're finding them at the club stores, they're finding them at the traditional grocery stores, at restaurants, at festivals, other kinds of retail food stores. It's become almost an expectation of many of our consumers as they're out there sampling products and going through their regular shopping experience. Interestingly to note here where folks were saying, well, what was the best ever place where you actually sampled product? You can see the farmer's market again there having a really good result. So our folks that are offering samples out there at the farmer's market are doing a good job. And so just trying to put that out there as a little word of encouragement for folks that have not made that effort yet to try to get out to set up to offer samples it's really been a very positive experience for the patrons that have been involved there. Here we can just see a little expansion there of this response of the patrons to the sampling event, and that over half of them, again, purchasing that product when they hadn't planned to in the first place. I get this question, this pushback a little bit from some vendors saying, well, I don't want to just give away my product. Some people are already going to buy this product if I don't offer the samples, or some people are going to sample this product, but they're going to change their mind after they sample my product and not purchase it. Those are such minor events that we've identified here in our research here. That the overwhelming majority of folks have had a very positive result as a product of trying these sample products. So you just have to keep in mind, how do I offer samples in a way that's going to make it as accessible as possible, as easy to sample, remove any types of anxieties that customers might have about actually sampling this product, to make it look like a very positive, clean, sanitary type of experience. And so we've got some really good resources in place here to help us take steps to be able to do that in a way that can eliminate some of those barriers to sampling. We do have a much more detailed and in-depth summary of the research results that we've had, and if somebody's kind of interested in getting in there and looking in some more detail at that research report, we've provided the web link for that here. There's quite an extensive best practices guide that we've put together for sampling at the farmers market that's free and available. Here's a PDF download, and certainly I would be happy and interested to follow back with folks that have some questions here. But we're going to follow up here with some conversations with some folks looking at how can we best implement our sampling program at the farmers market to comply with the regulations that are out there and to be as impacted as we possibly can. So Miranda, I'll turn it back to you.
Great, thanks, Jim. Next, Sharon Switzer and I will be talking about how to sample at Kentucky Farmers Market. So let's get started at the beginning. What is a sample? The Kentucky Department of Health defines a sample as a food product promotion where only a bite-sized portion of food or foods is offered free of charge to demonstrate its characteristics. We are fortunate in Kentucky that samples are allowed to be offered free of charge to Kentucky Farmers Market patrons without obtaining a temporary food service permit from the local health department. But you do have to have a sampling certificate from the Kentucky Department of Agriculture. And those of you tuning in from other states, please check with your health department before you start sampling. So what should you sample? The Ayers Family Orchard in Owenton samples their jams and fried dried apple pies. These are two products that their family really enjoys, and they think that their customers will too. And I have to admit, I did enjoy tasting those fried dried apple pies. Some other products that people sample are cheeses. Tracy Kurtzinger, Hometown Creamery in Baghdad, Kentucky, provides samples of her fresh spreadable cheeses. She mentioned that sampling is hard to do and that she often needs an extra person there helping her, but sampling does help teach her customers about why her cheeses are a little more costly. So sampling sells products, but another thing to think about is staffing. How about samples of breads and value-added products? Elsie Eubank of Sweet Virginia's Homemade Treats in Warsaw, Kentucky also likes to let people sample her products so that they know that they are getting a quality product, even if it is a little more expensive. You can see here we've got some green tomato relish that she sampled, and they had bread samples out the day that I visited the Boone County Farmers Market. Samples can add to an event or a celebration. If samples will be available, advertise it. And here are a few photos from the Jackson County Farmers Market grand opening in 2012. So help customers enjoy their time at the farmers market and engage them in your products. Now I will hand the mic over to Sharon Spencer, the Farmers Market Marketing Specialist at the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, and she will talk about sampling certification in Kentucky. Thanks, Sharon.
Thanks, Miranda. Well, welcome everybody. I'm so used to standing in front of everybody and actually seeing faces, so this is a little bit different for me. One thing that we really wanted to cover today was, of course, sampling and how do you get your sampling certificate. As most folks may know, your sampling certificates expired as of December the 31st of 2013. So we're in the process of getting the new Farmers Market edition, the new Farmers Market Manual edition out for 2014-2015. Also, we're working on the sampling application, the sampling guidelines. Um, Probably in the next 2 weeks, everybody that is currently holding a sampling certificate will receive a packet of information from me. So make for sure, it's very important, make for sure that you open that up. That's going to be your new sampling application. That will be your new sampling information. The Farmers Market Manual is still not available online. We're adding to that every day. We're making some changes. We're trying to provide as much information as we can for you guys this year. So if you can be patient with us for just a little while, we'll go on and have that out. But as of next week, we will have the new Farmers Market Sampling application online. We'll have 2 different versions of it. So hopefully this year, nobody will have a problem with actually filling it out online and emailing it to me. We had a little bit of problem with that last time. Sampling sales at the farmers market. Ask anybody that has been some of the producers that's actually done the sampling, and you can always tell that it's increased sales. One of our vendors that we had over in Winchester, he started sampling some of his candied jalapeno peppers and absolutely sold out. Folks loved it. Nobody is going to know what food tastes like until you maybe offer them a sample. It also opens up a conversation for you to actually talk to them, talk to you about your products. They can ask you questions about your farm. So it's a good conversation starter. So how do you go about getting a sampling certificate with Kentucky Department of Agriculture and being able to offer samples? If you are selling at a Kentucky Department of Agriculture registered farmers market, if you are selling at an on-farm market that is your farm, also, if you are selling at a certified roadside market that is registered with Kentucky Farm Bureau, we can issue you a sampling certificate. Now, there's 2 different types of sampling certificates that you'll get. The first one that you will have is a cooked, processed, or you can also do a raw and uncooked, which we call an all samples. So it's not actually going to say a raw and uncooked. It's going to say all samples. That'll give you permission to sample all of your products. Now, the requirements for this, if you're actually sampling cooked and processed, you just need to have to fill out the sampling application, complete that, send that in to our office. The address will be on a form, and it takes about 2 to 4 weeks for us to actually issue that sampling certificate to you. Now, if you are going to be sampling raw or uncooked products as well as cooked and processed, for raw and uncooked, you do have to go through GAP training, which is Good Agriculture Practices Training. On that, you can contact your local extension office and find out if they've got a class set up, or you can possibly watch a video in their office and they can send the information in to us. We'll get you a GAP diploma. After that, then you can fill out your sampling application, send that in to us, and we can issue you a sampling certificate for all samples. A lot of questions we get on the GAP. When you do the GAP training, the GAP training does not currently have an expiration date. So if you have had the GAP training 2 years, 3 years, 4 years ago, you're still good as long as we've got your name on our files and we can check that. If you've got any questions, feel free to shoot me an email, or you can also call our office. On the screen that you're looking at now, these are 2 examples that you're going to be seeing. Again, at the top left-hand corner is the cooked and processed. That is what you want to have if you're offering samples of any type of jams, jellies, salsas, anything that you have taken and have processed those items. The one that is down to the bottom that has Larry Ayer's name on it that says all samples, the all samples is going to be for any products that you want to sample at the farmer's market. That is what we would issue to you if you do a raw or uncooked product. Now remember, we on that, the GAP, there's no expiration. On this, it's going to be a 2-year requirement on this sampling. So you'll notice when you get your sampling application, it'll have an expiration date, and it'll say December the 31st of 2015. Sorry, make sure I get my dates and everything in order, but we've got to change that a little bit because the farmer's market manual, we update that every 2 years. So we did our sampling certificates to be updated with the sampling, with the farmer's market manual, so that way you've got all of the current information on the sampling. You're doing everything that the health department and everything wants you to do. So instead of saying that we're going to issue you a sampling certificate and have it issue or have it expire 2 years from the date that it was issued, we actually go with the date of our farmer's market manual. Hopefully that makes it a little bit easier for everybody. The reason why we send you these sampling certificates, you have to have these on display at the farmer's market. If you're at the farmer's market, if you're at your on-farm market, if you are also at the roadside markets, you have to have these on display if you're going to be offering a sample. The health department will come around. They will make sure that you have went through the necessary training, you filled out your paperwork, and so that way you've got this up, it's posted, they know that you're legitimate. One other comment, if you'll notice on there, it also has farmers markets listed. We do have to have on the sampling application, we do ask for all of the individual locations that you're going to be offering samples at. They have to be listed on your sampling certificate. The reason for that is in case something does happen, if somebody does get sick, we kind of know who's going to be offering samples at that market on that day and possibly what product that you're going to be offering a sample of. Now, getting into a little of the techniques and everything about sampling, you want to make for sure that any products that you are going to be sampling, you have washed those. Washing those in water, whatever that is, safe drinking water. And if you're using well water, you do have to make for sure that it has been tested. You've got all of your records and everything maintained for that. A lot of my farmers markets, a lot of my vendors at those markets, when they're offering samples, they prepare the samples at home. They just say that it's easier instead of having to bring everything to the market. They will go on and do their sampling preparation and everything at home. They will fix it. They'll wash everything. They'll make for sure, of course, they're in a controlled area in their kitchen to where everything can be cleaned and they don't have to worry about the insects and everything while trying to cut up all the products. And they can do the individual cups and put a lid. Remember though, if you are preparing those samples at home and you're bringing those to the market, you do have to make for sure that you've got your temperatures and everything controlled on that. One thing I know Shadrach Adams has always said with the Department for Public Health, if it's cold, keep it cold. If it's hot, keep it hot. So you'll want to make for sure that those temperatures and everything are correct. Cleaning hands. I'm not going to go through and tell you how to wash your hands. You know, you grew up, your mom's always told you of how to wash your hands. Gives you a little instructions on how you want to make for sure, instead of just running them underwater and just maybe rubbing your hands together and say you're done, you want to make for sure, of course, that you wet your hands and you put the soap and you wash them for at least 20 seconds. Always make for sure that the water is a free-flowing water, not into a bucket of water. All of you're doing is just kind of keeping all of the dirt and everything in that same bucket. So you want to make for sure that you are washing your hands properly. We do recommend gloves, though, if you're offering samples at the farmer's market, but you want to make for sure that you have clean hands before you put those gloves on, clean hands after if you're not wearing the gloves. Hand sanitizers, as you know, doctors and everything has said hand sanitizers are good to use. It is also good to use as kind of a benefit as well as gloves, but there's nothing that still beats the washing your hands properly. One thing we get a lot of questions is how to set up a hand washing station. Now, anybody that's going to be filling out the sampling application this year, this will be a question. This was a question before, but this year you're actually going to have the little diagram like what you see here, and you're going to have to actually write in on the labels of what all of those products are. We're going to ask you, what are the essentials to a hand washing station? So it's real simple. It's easy for me to say that it's real simple because I'm not packing the truck and making sure that I've got everything covered before I leave the house at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock in the morning, or even earlier. But these are the products that you want to bring. A lot of times we get folks that has just even little small like camping coolers. You can do that. I've had people tell me that they actually get those at Bass Pro as well as Gimplers online. Anybody that have maybe camping supplies, you can possibly find the water cooler that would have the free-flowing spigot on it. The reason for that is because you're not having to touch the button or push the button in each time to have to wash your hands. This is an example, of course, it's got a hand washing station. It doesn't show like the one that you just previously saw in the diagram, but it does have the free flowing spigot on the cooler. It also has a paper towel. It's got the bucket that's catching the water, and I'm sure there's a trash can sitting there somewhere. Also in the picture there to the left, it's got the blue tablecloth and the 3 blue buckets. Those are if you are planning on doing any type of cooking or preparing your samples at the farmer's market. That is going to be your wash, rinse, and sanitizer system setup. So that's just to give you a little bit of an example. Clean utensils. You always want to make for sure that any utensils, anything that is actually touching your sample that you are going to be preparing, your product that you're going to be cutting, always make for sure that you're using clean utensils. That's why most of the folks at home, they will prepare their samples before they come to the market, and they have them in a cup, have them in a Rubbermaid container or something where you can actually keep a top on them. But if you don't, if you decide to actually come to the farmer's market and prepare those, please make for sure that you've got your hand washing station, you've got your wash, rinse, and sanitizer system all set up before you do any type of sampling whatsoever, or even before you start preparing those samples. Again, you want to make for sure that you've got at the bottom it says you want to make sure you've got a clean bag and a dirty bag for your utensils. It's very important that you do keep those separate. If you are preparing those samples at the farmer's market, then what you will need to do is make sure that after you wash all of your utensils, one big important thing, you want to make for sure that you've got the sanitizer unit, the container that you're sanitizing your products in. Make for sure that you can actually put the tongs, the spoons, the forks, whatever you're using, that can be completely submerged in that sanitizer to where no part of that is sticking out. Once you take that out, then you want to air dry that. You're supposed to put it either on a clean surface and also maybe even a dish rack, but you do not want to use a towel or anything to actually dry those products. Again, that's just another example of if you want to actually do any type of cooking, any type of preparing your samples and everything there at the farmer's market. Just to cover a little bit again about the raw and unprocessed food sampling, most of the time this raw and unprocessed is your fruits and your vegetables. I will say there's been a lot of times that I have been to farmers markets. They've got cantaloupes, they've got watermelons sitting on the back of their tailgate where they've taken their pocket knife out of their pocket, cut a sample because a customer wanted to try it just to see what it tastes like. Please don't do that. Sharon will slap your hand if you do that. So I try to preach to everybody, make for sure that you are cleaning those products before, washing those products before, making sure that you do not use that pocket knife that you've probably done everything else on the farm with. So just remember to wash your products. If you prepare ahead of time, make sure you've got the products and everything either wrapped to where nothing could get to it. Make sure that you've got them stored again at the proper temperatures. Before you go to the market, you also have to make sure that you do have your all sample certificate that's issued from our office. And I think at this time, I'm going to turn it back over. Miranda and I are kind of tag teaming, so I'm going to let her cover some of the melons.
Yes, when we're talking about sampling melons, be very cautious when you're sampling these things at the farmer's market. Extra care must be taken when preparing fresh melon samples. As you can see, you need to really give those melons a really good scrub to remove all the deep dirt deep down in the netting of the melon. And it's also recommended that you wash melons in a 200 parts per million chlorine solution prior to slicing. And then after slicing, another really important thing is to keep your samples at 41 degrees or below. Sharon recommends that you do this at home. It's a little easier to control your cleanliness when you're slicing and getting into melons and washing them. But I also want to mention before she comes back that the pictures on this slide are from a melon tasting event at the Green City Market in Chicago. Like we mentioned before, bring in some chefs and create an event at the market to attract more customers. And then also to prepare sliced apples for sampling, make sure your knife is properly cleaned. Use a plastic cutting board or something that is non-absorbent, and wear gloves when you're slicing and placing them into disposable cups. A reason that you might want to slice apples at the farmer's market is so they don't turn brown before customers get to see them. Appearance is a really significant aspect that customers think about during sampling events. And these pictures are from an event at the Boone County Farmers Market. And sales of the Paula Red apples of Lakeview Farm skyrocketed that day as they were being sampled at the market.
Thanks, Miranda. Like you said, the key to it is once you offer those samples, more than likely those folks are going to buy those products. Cooked and processed food sampling, you can offer, we've got some of the best cooks in Kentucky. So you can offer your baked goods, your jams, your jellies, anything that you actually make at home, you can offer those as a sample. Again, the best thing is there in one of the pictures, as you notice, most everybody wants to use those cups, especially salsas. Salsas are they're a big hit. You can have chips. The big secret to doing sampling, though, is to make for sure that nobody else can actually touch those samples. I know a lot of times when you go to maybe county fairs, state fairs, someplace that's maybe not really on our control, I'll have people call me back and say, but now Sharon, they're not offering the sample the way you've told me to. So you all just keep doing it the way I'm telling you to, and that will keep you out of trouble. The other folks, we'll let them kind of deal with their problems. But if you're looking at maybe trying to do baked goods, jams, or jellies, of course, we've got rules for the home-based processor as well as the microprocessor. So you can refer to our 2014-2015 KDA Farmers Market Manual that is soon to be released. We have made some changes to it. We have actually did a little checklist, worked with Shadrack Adams with the Department for Public Health very closely, and we've done a little checklist as far as what products that you're looking at doing, and if you need to be either a home-based or if you need to be a microprocessor or even if you need to be a commercial manufacturer. So hopefully that'll be a little bit useful for you. Important thing though, if you are doing any type of baked goods, your jams, your jellies, meat samples, any type of samples of maybe kind of egg products, make for sure that your proper temperatures and everything are meets the requirements. That is also found in our farmers market manual. But also make for sure that in that storage, if nothing else, get you a thermometer to put in to your cooler. One big thing is do not use a styrofoam cooler. A styrofoam cooler is hard to actually disinfect, so you're better if you can actually use a normal cooler. That way it can be sanitized. Again, though, always remember to keep cold foods cold and hot foods hot. Make sure you've got your certificate and everything on display. These products here, of course, would only just require your cooked and processed sampling certificate. You would not be required to have any kind of gap check. When sampling meat at the farmer's market, I'm not going to go through, and as you kind of notice, I haven't really went through and read every single thing that's on each of the little bullet that's on the page, but just to give you a few little reminders, make for sure that if you are cooking the meats, you are going to be sampling, you have to keep those samples at 135 degrees or above in order to offer those samples. Make for sure that you keep insects away from them, dirt, everything needs to stay away from your samples that you're going to be offering. If you are going to be doing sampling of meats at the market, if you're going to be cooking at the market and doing sampling, you have to make for sure that you've got 3 separate utensils that you're going to be using. One you can be using for the raw meat, another one to be using for cooked meat, and another for the vegetables and the fruit. So you want to make for sure that you don't cross those. Also, the meat has to come from an inspected and approved USDA source.
So this is just an example of meats being sampled at the Boone County Farmers Market, and the Catalpa Acres farmers really enjoy sampling their products, and it really does sell their products the days that sampling events happen at their market. I just wanted to show you a picture of that. I'm sure you've noticed these bug nets in some of our pictures. It's a good way to keep flies away from your samples, and this will also cut down on the cost of sampling for you and is a little bit easier for your customers to start digging into your product. Most any place that sells picnic supplies probably carries these bug nets. Some places that I found were Bed Bath & Beyond, Amazon.com, and also the Mighty Dollar even sells them for $1, Sharon tells us. So check out, do some pricing around and see what works for you. So when you are offering samples, let people know. A simple sign beside the samples will help draw attention to your product. If it's a market-wide event, make sure to advertise and include signs, maybe even balloons at the market entrance. Another way to engage customers in sampling is to share recipe cards that highlight your seasonal goods. These are Kentucky Proud recipe cards. You can see that one side of the spinach slaw card is the recipe, and the back side contains some preparation and nutrition information. A nice way to display the recipe cards is near the featured ingredients. As you see here, the watermelon tomato salad is highlighted here with 3 main ingredients: watermelon, tomatoes, and onion. So get creative and try something new. These recipe cards are often available at your extension office, or you can contact KDA to get access to some of these recipe cards to hand out to your customers. So what is pooled sampling? We mentioned it a few times. Pooled sampling is a testing practice that requires 1 or 2 people to operate a table with samples from several different vendors at the market. This is a much easier way for producers to provide samples to their customers, and it also provides a way that customers can try a few things at one time and then get on with their shopping. So I've mentioned before, the Boone County Extension agents, they host an event for their farmers market vendors called A Taste of the Market. They provide their time one Saturday a month to host the sampling event. They've gotten great feedback about their program from both customers and vendors. So that's really something to think about when you're trying to put together a sampling event. Pooled sampling is just one way to provide staff for your sampling event. Here are some other ideas. I want to mention the Kentucky Champion Food Volunteers is a program that provides continuing education in the areas of food safety, food science, and food preparation, as well as food preservation. Check with your extension office for more information. Also, think about culinary school students, some agriculture students, FFA students, your summer farm interns. Be creative. Invite your friends to come help you, but make sure that they do have their sampling certificate and everything's in line before they're asked to help you and provide samples for your customers. I just wanted to highlight another sampling project that we've done, the Plated Up Kentucky Proud project, focused on asparagus, and some graduate students teamed up with asparagus growers across the state. The students set up and ran the sampling booth next to the grower at the farmers market one Saturday, while the growers were very pleased with how quickly their asparagus sold that day. Again, it's another example of those Kentucky Proud recipe cards. I just want to quickly talk about sampling at grocery stores. I was fortunate to go to the Good Foods Market and Cafe several times for their Sampling Saturday. It's an event that they host once a month, the first Saturday of every month, and as a way for their customers to meet the producers. 4 or 5 producers set up each month, and each of them is set up as close to the product on the shelf as possible. You can see here, Nancy Trevino, who does sampling for Steve's Ready-to-Dip beer cheeses, loves being next to the cheese case because she's able to reach over and pick up her product and hand it to the customer while she has them captive. And this way, they don't forget to pick it up on their way out. Donna Madden of Screamy Meanies sauces and salsas says the same thing, that she's really happy that she can be really close to her products, and they also set her up right in front of the chips, so if people are purchasing for salsas, they can grab a bag of chips to go along with it. And finally, Eric Wallace of Berries on Bryant Station has been processing and selling his own pickled okra. Eric views sampling as a great way to get his okra product into people's minds and let them get to know me as a producer, and while he has a captive audience, he wants to tell them about all the benefits of his okra. So I'm going to say one more time, sampling is a great way to engage customers and excite them about local food and all the benefits that come with it. A few more quick things. Think about food allergies and make sure to label your products. It is your responsibility to know what is in your product, and if your product has come in contact with allergens at some point, be very careful here. Make sure people know what they're trying. A few more things about hygiene. Sharon covered most of this, but make sure you wash your hands properly and frequently. Do not make bare hand contact with your food samples. Make sure you or your employee who are sampling for you wear clean outer garments and hair restraints. Make sure food is stored at least 6 inches off the ground. Keep garbage and trash covered and empty pretty often. And also ensure that food transportation is clean and sanitary vehicles. We all know what farm trucks look like partway through the market season, so be sure to keep your samples as clean as possible. The last thing I will address is insurance. The vendor offering samples assumes all liability for the safety of samples. Both the Kentucky Department of Agriculture and the Department for Public Health requires vendors to follow the guidance in all instances, but the liability for the safety of samples remains with the vendor. So there are two types of insurances here. Liability insurance is basic coverage that most farmers markets should have. They're often called slip and fall policies that all markets should be aware of and should probably carry one in case a customer gets injured while at your market. And product liability policies cover the individual vendors for liability from their specific products. Producers selling value-added products may want to think about this. Make sure when you're talking to your insurance professional that you talk to them about the specific things that you are going to do. Make sure they know you will be sampling and that you get the correct coverage for doing that. So with that, I'm pleased to hand the presentation over to Linda McMain to share her sampling experiences with us. Welcome, Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda McMain. I'm a grower from Salvisa. We started growing in 1999, and when we started, we did not have House Bill 391. We did not have sampling, and things have changed a lot, and it's a lot better now for the farmers. We start all of our plants. I start all of our plants at home in my basement, and year before last we put a high tunnel in, one of the NRCS high tunnels, which has helped a lot. Last year it extended our season. It's just some pictures of our inside and outside tomato plants, and then a couple years ago, John Wilhoit from UK came out and rolled out some hay on our pumpkin rows as a mulch, and we have a variety of products: summer, winter squash, melons, beans, tomatoes. We may not grow cantaloupes this year because of the risk that has presented itself because people do not wash their cantaloupes, and so there's lots of problems, but we haven't decided for sure on that. We belong to 4 different markets. I sell at the Bluegrass Farmers Market here in Lexington, and my husband sells mostly at the Woodford County Farmers Market, and then we also sell at Anderson County and Mercer County Market. We don't go to the last two as much because we're a small farm and don't have very many people to help us, but we found out that sampling has really helped sell our products, especially our jams and jellies. We don't do the usual raspberry, blackberry jams. We do now. We have some berries, but we started out doing the hot tomato and hot spice tomato, hot pepper, and then 2 different grape jellies, Concord and Niagara grapes. And those are products that people are not really accustomed to. So once they taste them, most people really like them. We've had a few people that don't like especially the tomato, and we found that with our hot peppers, we put cream cheese on the cracker, just a little bit, and then just a little dab of the jam, and that gives it the taste that people would get because it makes a great appetizer. And of course, the grape jellies cost a little bit, or well, some more than what you get in the store, but when especially the children taste that grape jelly, they want mom and dad to buy them a jar of grape jelly. And my husband gives a sample, a mystery sample, and usually he'll put out the spiced tomato and have people to guess what it is. These are our jams. We make these jams on a commercial basis. We use the extension office in Woodford County. They have a permitted kitchen there that we're privileged to go and rent. I do have the raspberry and the blackberry. We started growing those last year, so we put those out. And I do those under House Bill 391. We also do a group of, some 6 bean soup with our seasoning packet and grow some of the beans, not all of them, and put some of our spices in our seasoning packet. We have made the bean soup in a slow cooker if we have access to electricity, and have given out samples with that. Last year we grew lots and lots of eggplants, so we made the baba ganoush and gave out samples to help people see what they can do with the eggplant. We also give out the samples of the edamames, and those are, well, I guess we don't do a whole lot of the raw fruits and vegetables, but these are some of the things that we would do that we need the all sample certificate for. The sell-sample ratio is better at the farmers market than at special events. We have been able to list some of the holiday bazaars that were in some of the counties as a site for our market, and the people at the farmers market tend to be more receptive to the samples than at the holiday bazaar. And we like to focus on the long term. You give that sample to a customer, and many times that you've got a customer for their life. And then we always try to have recipes to hand out. We've made some sheets of recipes that would be like for squash, lots of different recipes that people could use for their product. Sampling does sell our products. It's hard to do if you're by yourself at a busy farmer's market. I'd start sampling at the beginning of the season. By the end of June, July, August, even September, I do not have the wherewithal to sample because I'm by myself and there's just not enough time. It's a matter of just getting it there, and what we usually do on our samples, we'll set up maybe 3 or 4 of each item and put out, because it's not supposed to say, I think, what is it, 30 minutes that we're supposed to hold them on the, is it 30 minutes? How long is it we can keep them out? Not very long.
It's not very long. I'll check.
Okay, and so we don't want to have too many samples out there that they would have we would risk them bad. So my husband is able to, he's on the Woodford County market. It's a little bit slower market than Bluegrass in the middle of the season, and he is able to do samples. He usually sells more products than I do, jams and jellies than I do, because of his sampling. And I know one year, a couple years ago, the first day I did not sample. I sold 1 jar of jam. The next day at the market I sampled, I think I sold 17 jars. So it does pay, and it is not expensive to do. Once you get your hand wash station and everything set up, and I have an end of the table that we put that on, and it's all separate from, well, not completely separate, but it's off to itself a little bit, and so then you're able to go forward with it. So that's our experience with sampling.
Linda, it's no longer than 30 minutes.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda. What a great presentation. Like she said, it's not expensive and it will sell your product. So real quickly, we're just going to go through our best practices checklist. This is just a small portion of what is on our best practices checklist. But I also want to let you all know that in the files box in the bottom left corner of your screen, you can download our best practices checklist. our list of frequently asked questions, as well as the whole best practices manual. So please take advantage of these resources. I know Tim mentioned them earlier, but they're there for you to use and upload to your own computers. So we've split our best practices checklist up into 3 different sections, starting with sampling event preparation. Think about signs. Make sure you've got them. Let people know that you're sampling. Present your products in a way that's easy for people to access and makes them want to try your products. Make sure you have product available to sell the day that you're offering samples. As Linda just said, you will sell your products when you're sampling them. Make sure you have enough help. She also mentioned that's a big aspect, and make sure you're ready for that. And another thing is to take an opportunity to define terms that you're using: sustainable or certified, organic, naturally grown. Let people know how you define those and what those mean in your products. Also, make sure you let people know how to take care of your products once they take them home. Figure out how to store them. Make sure you have proper utensils and equipment. And if you're selling meat, dairy, or processed products, make sure you have your legal regulations in order. The same goes for raw products. So make sure you're up to date, you know what you're doing, and be prepared when you get out there to sample. Think about offering coupons or do a special offer during a sampling event. And as a market vendor, make sure you have the correct kind of insurance coverage for you and yourself and your farm. Well, moving on to the sampling delivery, we just make sure that, and almost all farmers market vendors should know this, that the relationship with your customers is just as important as producing great products. Be prepared to engage all of them by offering enough samples to everyone who comes to the market that day. People will want to try your stuff if you're offering. Make sure you have your nutritional information and a list of ingredients, as well as all the health benefits of your product when you're sampling, so you're able to talk to people about this kind of stuff. Think about adding recipe cards or having idea lists for customers to learn about your product. Also, make sure you can hand out a brochure or your business card with your website and Facebook information so people can connect with you outside of the market and learn more about your product. And again, discuss your freshness and quality, as well as the locally grown attributes that are unique to your products. So finally, follow up with your customers. Don't forget about them just after the sampling event. Think about creating different events around sampling, and make sure you think about working with other vendors to do a full sampling event or having a chef come and do a demonstration using your product. So that's all I have for now. I think Sharon wants to say a few more things.
Just a couple of things that I didn't cover and I meant to. When you're offering samples of raw products, a lot of times we get questions of offering samples of strawberries, cherry tomatoes, blueberries. Folks will say, well, can I just offer them if they want to take one? Can I just offer it from my table? You need to make for sure that is still something. If you're going to offer any type of sampling whatsoever, or any type of a sample of a product, you have to make for sure that you've got that under control, that the product and everything has been washed, and then it's packaged to where if they actually reach in to get a strawberry, if they reach in to get a blueberry, they are not touching another blueberry that somebody else may also get. So you want to make for sure that if they get that sample, they're only touching their sample only. So like I said, most of the time we'll get folks that'll come up. Now you can't control your customers if they just pick it up and just eat it right off from your table. But you do want to make for sure that you've got it under control, that if they do want to have samples, that you've got the strawberries there available, or you've got your blueberries. Also, a lot of questions that I get sometimes on special events. On the special events, we've got a lot of folks now that are having festivals and different things that they want to invite the farmers market vendors to. The farmers market can actually attend these special events as long as it is a designated location for your farmers market to meet. You have to make for sure that it's submitted in with your farmer's market registration, and you also have to make for sure that it's listed on the website. So once I get that information, I list that on the website. So check from time to time the information that's out there on the web and make for sure that all the locations that you want to do. We try to ask you, if you do go to these events, that you designate an area that is going to be a farmer's market area for your vendors. So that way, if the health department comes around, we've actually got you all in one area, and they know that you've following all of the procedures that you should. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem. Thanks, Sharon. So I just want to go through a few more resources that will be helpful to you in thinking about sampling and adding to your marketing plan. USDA Ag Marketing Service has a great website. They've got a lot of information about farmers markets across the nation. Check them out when you're looking for something. The Farmers Market Coalition also supplies a lot of information, and it has a farmer to farmer share kind of feel to some of the information that's available. The National Good Food Network provides a lot of information about the farmers market managers. So if you're a manager or if your market is thinking about one, definitely check out that information. Of course, the Kentucky Department of Agriculture, and Sharon Spencer was here sharing with us about her perspective on sampling. The Kentucky Department of Health is another good resource to check into before you get started sampling. And of course, the University of Kentucky, the Center for Crop Diversification, is always here to help you if you have questions or need anything. Feel free to give us a call. Also, check us out on Facebook. Kentucky Proud does a lot of different pictures, all sorts of stuff going on across the state on their Facebook page. And the Center for Crop Diversification also keeps up one. So please like us. And just to clarify, participants of this webinar will not be issued the Kentucky Sampling Certification, but please fill out the KDA Market Sampling application and return it to Sharon Spencer for your renewal or to be certified for the first time. Like she said, all that information will be available in the next week or so, and I will try to email everyone who's on this webinar and let them with the attachments of the sampling application as well as the market manual once it's ready to go. So we are not able to have an evaluation today, so we'll move into questions. I see a few here on the side, and if you've got any more questions, please share them with us. I think I answered Renee's question. Any cooked or prepared items have been sampled. It's very possible, and Sharon did go over those regulations. You can see more about it in the Kentucky Farmers Market Manual that will be out in the next few weeks. So keep an eye out for that, and I will try to make sure I send that to everyone. Andrea, Sharon will be getting the certifications and the applications out to people here in the next couple weeks as they're updating and adding to the Kentucky Farmers Market Manual. So hope that helps.
Just make for sure that anybody that is currently holding a sampling certificate and it has an expiration date of December the 31st of 2013, make for sure that if you do not get a sampling packet in the mail within the next 2 weeks, say by March the 1st, if you have not received anything in the mail, please give me a call or send me an email and let me know. My email, I believe, is at the end of this. Well, actually, you're looking at it right now on the screen. So send me an email if you do not get the packet. I've got the address that is submitted to me when you actually submit your sampling certificate, sampling application, so sometimes that may change. But always make sure that it's completed, you've signed it, and you've got a date on there, and you've listed the farmers markets. Anybody that is an extension staff, what we actually do for you guys is put on there all registered KDA farmers markets. And the reason why we do that is because we know that you guys kind of move around and help each other out and work together as a team in some special events. So we try to list that as all KDA farmers market for extension staff. Now, if it's an individual that is actually sending in the application, they will be required to list all of the individual farmers markets that they are going to be selling at.
Thank you, Sharon. Linda, I think this question's good for you. Julie wants to know, when you sample jams, does it help to have mini crackers? And how would you display the crackers or the bread while you're sampling?
Yes, it does help. We get the round crackers. The minis would be great, and then they fit into one of the little round plastic containers that, so we put the cracker, well, we go ahead and put the jam, cream cheese, whatever, and jam on the cracker and then just put it in there. They're a little bit hard to get out. The minis would be better, but they can kind of squish the bottom of it and it pops out pretty easily. So yes, the crackers do help. We have also gotten the tiny little spoons from some of the restaurant supply stores, and that works too, especially if it's not a hot jam or jelly.
Great, thank you, Linda. I did want to mention Angela Caparelli provided some good information in the question and answer section where you can get some supplies for your sample or your hand wash station. I'm sorry. So check out her comments to think about that. Laura, we will be sending out that information for the Kentucky Farmers Market Manual as well as the sampling application in the next few weeks. I will try to send it to all of you who are here on the webinar. I do have all your email addresses, so look out for it that way. And Christy, the recording of this webinar will be on the Center for Crop Diversification website, and I will also plan to send the link to the recording out to you in that same email where I send the Kentucky Farmers Market Manual and the application for all of you. So I hope that helps. Otherwise, either contact me or Sharon in the next week or so, and we can connect you to those documents. Renee, just contact Miranda or Sharon and we'll get you connected. Jessica, this won't work for you because we are in Kentucky. This is only for Kentucky. And yes, I would start with Tennessee Extension. You might also contact your health department to see what you should do. Definitely before you get started. So, Sharon, would you like to address Linda's question?
Yes, Linda, if it's a non-farmers market event, we've been told by the health department, if you follow our guidelines and making for sure that you're doing everything that is required, you should be okay. I'm not giving you a 100% guarantee. What you may want to do is check with your local health department and find out if there's any kind of requirements or anything that they need. I know when we were talking in the presentation, and I think Miranda said something about the products have to be 6 inches off the ground, and Linda wrote down and she said Fayette County has to be 24. So it's always good to check with your local health department because sometimes your county and your city rules may be a little bit different than what the overall state rules are. So just check with them. We cannot issue a sampling certificate for any type of a special event or in-store sampling. So we're sorry about that. Outside the packets and everything should be received by March the 1st. So if you haven't received anything, at least give it until the end of next week. Hopefully everybody will receive a packet. If you are not on, if you have never received a sampling certificate before, of course you will not be on my mailing list, but you can send me an email and I can add you to that list and send it to you. And Miranda's also going to send everybody that's participating today, if she's got your contact information, she'll send you a copy of that as well. I will say though, wineries, anybody that does wine, you can offer samples at wine. That's where you find most of the happy people at the farmer's market. You see a lot of giggling going on, so you know they're giving samples of the wine. But we do have wine sampling that can be done. You cannot advertise it as a free sample. You do have to charge, so you would have to have a small charge for offering a sample of your wines. But we do have a lot of wineries that sell. Make for sure though that you're not a dry county. Make for sure that alcohol sales is allowed in your area. That is a big plus right there, but make for sure that you've got all of your information that you need from the ABC board and everything as well.
Great, thank you, Sharon. So Renee, I think we just answered your question, but definitely make sure you also check out the Kentucky Farmers Market Manual that we will be sending out here in the next couple days or weeks. So keep an eye out for that. And like I said, email me if you don't get it, and we will make sure that you get access to that. Are there any other questions? If not, I think we'll go on and if there aren't any more questions, I think we will go on and close out. Thank you all for participating and for joining us. And like we said, if you have any questions at all, please contact Miranda or Sharon, Tim. I'm sure Linda would be happy to talk to anybody about sampling specifically at farmers markets too. So just contact us for any more information and let us know how we can help you. Thank you, everyone.